Personal log of Fleet Commander Vex Lumar, 7th Galactic Cycle. The first time I encountered a human vessel, I nearly ordered its immediate destruction. My tactical officer Brant L. had never seen readings like these before, constant electromagnetic emissions pouring from every section of their ship. It was broadcasting on hundreds of frequencies simultaneously, as if screaming its location to the entire universe. What kind of species would design warships that announce their presence? I asked my bridge crew. No one had an answer. Our protocol dictated that unknown vessels maintain communication silence until formal contact was established. The humans did the opposite. Their ships constantly transmitted data, music, conversations, entertainment programs, and what appeared to be internal system diagnostics. When we established first contact, their captain Orithia Vascanian seemed genuinely confused by our concern. "Of course our systems broadcast," she said, blinking those strange dual-lidded eyes at me. "How else would our crew communicate? How would our autonomous subsystems coordinate?" This was my introduction to what humans called network computing, a bizarre concept where their ships contained thousands of semi-independent machines, all chattering constantly to one another. "But any enemy can detect you from parsecs away," I protested. Captain Vascanian smiled, that unsettling facial gesture that pulled back their mouth coverings to expose bone protrusions. "Yes, they can. And then what? That's the part you haven't figured out yet." The human vessel, designation Relentless Curiosity, maintained position alongside my command ship for 3 solar cycles while we established diplomatic protocols. During this time, my security team logged over 14,000 separate transmissions emanating from their vessel, internal communications, entertainment broadcasts, and constant system status updates between their computers. Most disturbing was their casual attitude toward this vulnerability. When I questioned their chief engineer Fintalmage about it, his response chilled my blood. "Commander Vex Lumar," he said while manipulating one of their crude manual interfaces, "we've been expecting someone to attack our broadcasting systems for 2 centuries. We've prepared accordingly." I didn't understand what he meant until much later. And by then, it was almost too late for the entire consortium fleet. Personal log of Fleet Commander Vex Lumar, 7th Galactic Cycle, Supplemental. The Mreejak incident changed everything. For those unfamiliar with galactic politics, the Mreejak Dominion is, or rather was, a predatory civilization occupying the Cygnus Arm. They observed human broadcasting patterns and saw an opportunity. Their battlecruiser Inevitable Conquest targeted a small human science vessel called the Dawnseeker. The Mreejak approach was textbook. They tracked the human ship's emissions, positioned themselves along its trajectory, and launched a precision strike to disable its propulsion systems before the humans could even detect their presence. At least, that was their plan. What happened next is still debated in tactical academies throughout the consortium. The Dawnseeker not only anticipated the attack, but seemed to have been waiting for it. When the Mreejak weapons reached their target coordinates, the human vessel wasn't there. Instead, the Mreejak found themselves bombarded by directed energy weapons from 3 different vectors simultaneously. But sensor sweeps showed only one human ship in the area. I later learned the truth from Lieutenant Commander Karishma Dhaliwal during an intelligence exchange. The humans had developed what they called broadcast honeypots, false emission signatures designed to mislead enemies about their true position, composition, and capabilities. "Our ships broadcast on purpose," Dhaliwal explained, her dark eyes gleaming with what I now recognize as amusement. "We've been fighting wars against ourselves for millennia. We learned long ago that broadcasting can be a weapon when your enemy relies on those broadcasts for intelligence." The human vessels carried specialized drones that mimicked their emission patterns, creating ghost images in sensor readings. When enemies targeted these false signatures, they revealed their own positions while attacking nothing. Most alarming was Dhaliwal's casual revelation. The Dawnseeker knew the Mreejak were stalking them for 3 days. Captain Okafor simply waited for the optimal moment to spring the trap. After the incident, the Mreejak Dominion lodged a formal complaint with the Galactic Council, claiming the humans had violated combat protocols. The human representative Ambassador Lajbir Tenzin, responded with a statement I'll never forget. If your battle strategy depends on your enemy behaving exactly as you expect, perhaps you should reconsider your approach to warfare. Personal log of Fleet Commander Vex Lumar, 7th Galactic Cycle, Crisis Entry. The Gorlaxian hegemony didn't learn from the Mrejak mistake. They observed human broadcasting patterns for a full standard year before planning their assault on the human colony world Proxima Centauri 4. Their strategy was sophisticated, specialized jamming arrays to disrupt the human networks, followed by a conventional assault. The hegemony committed 12 warships to the operation, confident that silencing human communications would render them helpless. I was serving as military attaché to the consortium diplomatic mission on Proxima when the attack began. One moment, all systems were functioning normally. The next, every communication frequency went silent. The Gorlaxians expected panic. Instead, the human response was immediate and coordinated. Defense platforms activated automatically. Civilian vessels transformed into military support craft. The Colonial Defense Force deployed with precision despite the complete communications blackout. Later, I learned the truth from Colonel Idowu Khalida, Proxima's defense commander. Our systems are designed to function in total communication silence, she explained while we watched the Gorlaxian surrender ceremony. Every human computer system carries complete mission parameters and autonomous decision-making capabilities. But your ships broadcast constantly, I objected. Of course they do, Khalida nodded. Under normal conditions, our systems share data continuously, updating and optimizing each other. But every human system is designed to operate independently when necessary. She showed me their military doctrine, distributed autonomous resilience. Each human ship, platform, and even individual weapon system contained enough programming to complete its mission without external guidance. The constant broadcasting wasn't a vulnerability. It was a luxury they could function without. We broadcast because communication improves our effectiveness, Khalida said. But we train to fight in silence. The Gorlaxians had spent vast resources developing technology to counter what they perceived as a critical human weakness. In doing so, they'd merely stripped away a human advantage, while leaving their core capabilities intact. The broadcasts are useful, Colonel Khalida told me as we watched Gorlaxian commanders sign their capitulation documents. But assuming they're necessary was their mistake. For the first time, I began to understand why humans were rapidly becoming a dominant force in galactic politics, despite their technological limitations. Personal log of Fleet Commander Vex Lumar, 8th Galactic Cycle. The Consortium War College requested my presence to deliver a lecture on human military doctrine. After my experiences with humans, I become something of an unwilling expert on their tactics. The fundamental mistake, I explained to the assembled officers, is assuming human broadcast patterns represent carelessness or technological limitation. They are neither. They are deliberate choices that create strategic advantages. I displayed tactical data from the Mrejak and Gorlaxian encounters, along with 12 other instances where species had misunderstood human capabilities. Humans use broadcasting as a form of deception, I continued. Their emissions create an electronic signature that appears vulnerable, but conceals their true capabilities. When you attack what you perceive as a weakness, you activate countermeasures specifically designed to exploit your response. Admiral Kreltan interrupted. Are you suggesting we should emulate human broadcast patterns? Absolutely not, I replied. Our systems aren't designed for that operational model. What I'm suggesting is that we recognize the trap for what it is. The most sophisticated aspect of human broadcast systems wasn't technological, but psychological. They had created a vulnerability so obvious that enemies couldn't resist targeting it, and in doing so, fell into carefully laid traps. During my research, I discovered the origin of this approach in human military literature, something they called the Trojan horse principle. They deliberately presented appealing targets that contained hidden dangers. During my final diplomatic mission aboard the human vessel Unconventional Wisdom, I confronted Captain Nazari Blackwood about this strategy. "Isn't this form of deception dishonorable?" I asked. Captain Blackwood considered this thoughtfully before answering. "Commander Vex Lumar, humans don't view warfare as an opportunity to demonstrate honor. We see it as a tragedy to be concluded as quickly as possible. If broadcasting our position tricks an aggressor into revealing themselves before they're ready, we've potentially saved lives on both sides." Her logic was alien to my thinking, yet I couldn't find fault with it. Humans had developed their military doctrine in isolation, fighting only themselves for millennia. They had no conception of the standardized combat protocols that govern conflict between consortium species. They didn't play by our rules because they'd never learned them, and now it was too late for us to teach them. Personal log of Fleet Commander Vex Lumar, 8th Galactic Cycle, final entry. Today, I retire from active service after witnessing the formal admission of Earth and its colonies into the Galactic Consortium. What began as an intelligence assessment has become my life's work, helping the consortium understand and adapt to human presence in galactic affairs. The Harvester's invasion attempt last cycle demonstrated that humans have continued refining their broadcast deception techniques. When the Harvester fleet attempted to silence human communications before their main assault, they discovered the transmissions weren't coming from the ships at all. The humans had deployed a vast network of autonomous broadcast drones throughout their territory, creating an electronic signature that masked their actual fleet positions. When the Harvesters attacked these decoys, human vessels emerged from concealment and surrounded them. What followed wasn't even properly a battle. The humans had positioned their forces so thoroughly that the Harvesters surrendered without firing a shot. During the victory celebration, I found myself speaking with Admiral Makoto Damine, the architect of the defense strategy. "You know, Commander Vex Lumar," she said, "your early reports about our broadcasting patterns were instrumental in our planning. Once we understood how other species perceived our communication methods, we could exploit those perceptions." I felt a chill. "You read my classified reports?" She smiled. "Let's just say information has a way of broadcasting itself, even when you think it's secure. As I complete my final log entry, I offer this wisdom to my successors. Humans broadcast not from necessity, but choice. Their seemingly primitive approach to information security is actually a sophisticated trap. They want you to hear them. They want you to track them. They want you to think you understand their capabilities. Because the moment you act on that understanding, you discover how wrong you were. Now that humans have joined the consortium, many species have begun adopting modified versions of their broadcast deception techniques. The galaxy's entire approach to electronic warfare is transforming. The next generation of officers won't fear human broadcasting. They'll study it, adapt it, and incorporate it into their own doctrine. And perhaps that was the humans' goal all along, not to defeat us, but to teach us. As Admiral Damine told me during our final meeting, the loudest voice in the room isn't always the most vulnerable. Sometimes it's the one most confident in its strength. I've learned to listen carefully to what humans broadcast. But more importantly, I've learned to consider what they aren't saying at all. End log. Service record of Fleet Commander Vex Lumar, sealed by authority of the Consortium Intelligence Directorate.